I'm 46 now, the third out of 4 siblings. My oldest brother, Pete, is about 48. I haven't spoken to him in years. Then there was my younger brother Jay, who sadly passed away. And finally, my youngest sister, Kay, who's 44. Just recently, Pete's 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son, all either in college or fresh out, reached out, saying they'd like to get to know me. That caught me off guard, since I've completely cut ties with their father. I once swore if I ever saw him again, I'd leave him black and blue. Let me give you some context. Pete was always treated like royalty growing up. No matter what he did wrong, my parents always made excuses for him. Bad grades? The teacher had a grudge. Cheated on every girlfriend he ever had? Well, better that he did it before she could. That last one always made my blood boil. He used to bully Jay and me relentlessly when we were younger until I hit my growth spurt in high school and shot up to 6 feet 4 inches, built like a linebacker. I played football, had a big circle of friends, the whole jock thing. After that, Pete left me alone. But Jay wasn't as lucky. Jay stayed pretty small, never grew past 5 feet 8 inches and kept to himself most of the time. His school years were quieter, and he didn't have a big social life. But no matter what, I always looked out for him. I couldn't stand how Pete picked on him, and once Pete realized I could crush him without breaking a sweat, he finally backed off. For what it's worth, Pete wasn't that big either, barely 5 feet 10 inches. As for Kay, she was the baby of the family, and our mom made it very clear Pete wasn't allowed to mess with her. So he didn't. Now, in the late 90s, Jay met his first serious girlfriend, I'll call her Anna. He was head over heels. He spent every second with her, and when they weren't together, he wouldn't shut up about her. I had never seen him so happy. Then one day, he came to us absolutely glowing. Anna was pregnant. But that joy didn't last. A week later, the whole family found out she'd been cheating on him the entire time. And not just with some random guy, she was sleeping with Pete. That shattered Jay. I've never seen anyone fall apart like that. And what made it even worse was our parents' reaction. They didn't scold Pete. They didn't show disappointment. They basically told Jay to move on and be happy for his brother. I still remember the look on Jay's face during that conversation. I think something inside him broke. About a week later, Jay took his own life. I've never felt grief and fury like that in my life, heartbroken that he was gone and enraged that our own family pushed him to the edge. At the funeral, Pete had the nerve to show up with Anna. I completely lost it. I was ready to kill him right then and there, and if it hadn't been for other relatives holding me back, I probably would've. I told him flat out that if I ever saw him again, I wouldn't hold back. After that, I walked away from almost everyone in my family. I cut off all contact with Pete, our parents, and basically everyone except Kay and a cousin I've always been close to. The rest of them spent more energy defending Pete than mourning Jay, and I couldn't take it. Now fast forward to today. I never had kids of my own, and honestly, I've always preferred being the fun uncle. Kay married a great guy and had 2 amazing daughters who I love to pieces. She also had more kids with Pete later on, before he cheated and split. Shocking, I know, but I've never met those ones. Over the years, my parents have made several attempts to reach out. I told them to save their breath. But just last week, while I was chatting with Kay's daughters, they're 19 and 17 now, they told me that Pete's kids have wanted to meet me for a while. They were hoping I might be open to the idea. I don't think they know the whole story, what really went down between me and their dad. But if I'm being honest, a part of me has always been curious about them too. So now I'm in this weird spot. I'm wondering how to start a relationship with Pete's kids, my nieces and nephew, without letting him or Anna back into my life. I don't want anything to do with either of them, and I never will. But maybe, just maybe, there's a path forward with the kids. One person online brought up something I hadn't thought about that's got me rethinking my approach. The only reason I was considering meeting the kids now is because they're all home from college due to COVID. But someone suggested I might be better off meeting them individually, after they return to their campuses. That might be less intense and give me a chance to build something more naturally. I'm really leaning toward that idea. A few folks also asked why I still talk to Kay, since she stayed in touch with our parents. I've answered that a bunch of times, so I'll just repeat it here. Kay was just as devastated over Jay as I was. But after college, she and her boyfriend, now husband, hit some financial trouble and couldn't stay with me due to unrelated drama, so they moved in with our parents. Over time, the relationship between them softened, and even though I wasn't thrilled about it, I understood. Kay doesn't really talk to Pete anymore, but she's civil when they run into each other. I can't blame her. Our parents helped her out a lot, and her daughters adore their cousins. I never wanted to force her to choose between us. Just to clarify, Pete's kids haven't reached out to me directly. I only heard they wanted to meet through Kay's girls. That's why I think their interest probably comes from the close bond they have with my nieces, who talk about me a lot. Maybe they're just curious. At least, that's what I'm hoping. 5 years ago, this would have been a hard no. But now, with all the kids in college and only staying with Pete temporarily due to the pandemic, this might be my one real shot to see them all in one place. Then again, once they go back to school, they'll be scattered across the country. So maybe one-on-one meetings really are the smarter move. That brings me to my big question: how do I start building a relationship with my nieces and nephew when their father played a huge role in my brother's death? Hey everyone, first off, I want to thank this community for all the advice, thoughts, and support. Your responses gave me a lot to think about, and honestly, they helped me build a plan for how to handle everything going forward. A few folks told me I probably shouldn't meet up with the kids at all, that it'd be better to leave the past buried. But I knew deep down that if I didn't at least try, the what-ifs would haunt me. I had to know. Let me clear up a few things that came up in the comments on my last post. One common question was why I used initials instead of fake names. Truth is, I didn't want to accidentally mix up names while writing. Using letters made it easier to stay consistent for myself, so sorry if it made things harder to follow. Another concern people had was whether these kids were trying to reconnect with me for money. I get it, that was a concern of mine, too. But just to be clear, I don't hand out cash to anyone, not even to Kay's daughters, who I love to death. What I do offer is support with things like financial aid, budgeting, and helping them connect with real financial advisors. No one's getting a check from me. Just guidance, and they've been nothing but appreciative. A few people also asked if I ever went to therapy. The answer is yes. I spent 6 solid years seeing a therapist after I cut ties with most of my family. It helped a lot. She encouraged reconciliation for a long time, but I made it clear from the start that door was closed. What she did help me with was seeing who else in my life had been draining me, and she guided me through distancing myself from those people too. One of those Messier breakups, actually, is why Kay couldn't live with me when she hit her financial rough patch and ended up back at our parents' house. Now for the update. I decided not to meet all the kids at once, especially since they were still living under Pete's roof at the time. I didn't want to get overwhelmed, or worse, put in a situation where I was bombarded with uncomfortable questions or money requests before I even got a read on them. The first one to head back to her college town, shortly after my post, was Pete's oldest daughter, let's call her C. She's 21. She was going back to get settled in, find a part-time job, and gear up for the fall semester. I got her email through Kay's daughters, since I don't really use social media, and decided to reach out. To my surprise, she was thrilled to hear from me. We set up a time to meet while I was in her city, and I flew out for it. I got to the restaurant a little early, grabbed a drink or two to calm my nerves, and made sure to reserve the most private table they had. I wanted us to be able to speak freely without feeling watched or overheard. And the moment she walked in, I knew who she was without question. She looked just like my mom did when she was young, those same green eyes Jay and I inherited. Pete never had them. When we were kids, strangers used to compliment Jay and me on our eyes all the time. I could tell it made Pete burn with jealousy. Anyway, we greeted each other, and after some casual small talk about college and work, she cut to the chase. She said, "You're probably wondering why I wanted to meet you." Then she told me something I absolutely didn't see coming. Last year, during the lockdown, she and her sister took an ancestry DNA test for fun. Turns out, they're half-sisters. C is Jay's daughter. She went on to explain how Pete always treated his other kids better than her growing up, and when she got the DNA results, suddenly it all made sense. It also explained their rocky relationship. Apparently, Pete still acts like the same bitter jerk he's always been. No surprise there. After confronting her mom with the DNA results, Anna admitted everything. Yes, she had cheated on Jay with Pete, and yes, C was Jay's biological daughter. I guess the realization hit her hard, especially when she was forced to confront Jay's suicide and her part in it. According to C, Anna's carried a lot of guilt about it ever since. I told C everything about how Jay died, how I cut off most of the family, why Pete and I haven't spoken since. I told her about the fallout, the betrayal, all of it. She also shared that when she was born, Pete wanted to put her up for adoption. But our parents, for once in their lives, stepped in and told him no. They threatened to cut him off financially if he did. Once lockdown restrictions began to ease, she felt like it was time to try and get to know her real dad's side of the family, and since I was closest to Jay, that meant me. She told Kay's daughters she wanted to meet me and asked them to reach out on her behalf, knowing we were close and that was her best shot. By that point, I couldn't keep it together. I started crying. I just felt this deep sorrow for everything she went through, especially being raised by Pete. I told her, flat out, that if I had known who she really was, I would have adopted her in a heartbeat. The rest of our meal was filled with stories about Jay. Things I hadn't thought about in years started bubbling up. She's sharp, too, told me she's planning to pursue her master's degree in computer science and already has scholarships and grants lined up to cover everything. That honestly helped calm the fear in the back of my mind that maybe I was being scammed. But no, she's legit. And incredible. We ended the evening by exchanging contact info and sharing a long hug. It felt like I had gotten a small piece of Jay back in my life. Now that I know it was really just C who wanted to meet, I asked her to feel out whether her siblings might want to talk as well. I'm not pushing it, I just wanted her to pass along the offer. All in all, I couldn't be happier with how the meeting went. I feel like I have a second chance at connecting with a part of my brother. And thankfully, C completely understands and supports my decision to stay no contact with Pete and Anna. I'll probably post updates if and when I meet her siblings, but for now, I'm just thankful I got to meet her.